Coach's Show. It's week 6 now, I guess.
Yep.
So we Wildcats coach Ryan Boyer with me today. Coach, welcome to the show.
I appreciate you having me back.
So let's jump back there. We're 5-0 now. That's where the little confusion was. We enter week 6 undefeated after a 37-13 win over a good Adrian Blackhawks squad last Friday night.
Yeah, it was a big game for us. Like I told the kids, it's a statement game, whether you want it to be or not, and we were fortunate to be able to make a good statement out of it.
Right. So can you kind of recap the game for viewers and those who maybe didn't get up there or haven't heard or haven't gone on to watch the BC TV broadcast, which was really, really fun to do that night, by the way.
Yeah.
But anyway, starting things off, they win the toss. They defer, so we get the ball. And we run our first play.
Yep.
Not much gain. Second play is I don't know if it's a bad snap or a bobbled snap, whatever, puts us down at like 3rd and 17. And that's when a 68-yard touchdown pass from Brady to Cam Severs down the left sideline there went for 68 yards and a touchdown and got us on the board. And I'm sure Wildcat fans are thinking, all right, we're doing this again,
Yeah,
right?
yep.
So Brady then runs in a 2-point conversion, and it's 3 plays into the game, 8-0.
Yeah.
So tell us what we saw on that play.
Yeah, with that, it was one, again, we knew that, just Adrian's overall size was very impressive, and honestly probably more impressive in person than it was on film.
It was.
And so to that, that's something we stress on both sides of the ball, guys. That's hard to emulate in practice each week, and so, it came out, like I said, short run. It came out in a defensive front that really they hadn't shown and we didn't expect, and that was fine.
That seems to be something happening to us every week.
Right, yes, and that's where we gave our guys up front a ton of credit. They didn't panic. They made the adjustments, got settled in. But, yeah, and then that second play, very uncharacteristic, but Brady just on the hit, kind of lost the ball there, was able to recover it. And, to that, though, again, kept his composure. We always say live for that next play.
Sure.
And, Cam did a great job just setting the defender up and then getting behind him and put us on the board. It's always nice when you can score on that opening drive and punch a 2-point conversion in.
Especially just 3 plays in.
Yeah, that's always, we'll take that too.
So, yeah. And then, again, of course, with an 8-0 lead, then Adrian mounts a pretty good drive on their next drive. I mean, I think Matt and I, when we were doing the game, were like, good Lord, how long have they had the ball? And we looked up, and it was over 7 minutes on that drive.
Yeah.
So they take it down, eventually punched in at 138 of the first, and that was on just a 4-yard run. Mm-hmm. And it looked to me like – and those games are really hard to call. And I told Matt they're harder for him.
Yeah.
Because he's up there trying to call play-by-play on the games, and it's hard to tell who has the ball when they're running that type of option.
Yes. And you're exactly right. We went back and looked. That's a 17-play drive. And – being there, obviously we're coaching them up, but the stadium was silent almost,
right,
just because it was just 2-3, 2-3. That quarterback, he's 200-something pounds. That fullback, about 230, 240, it seemed like. So yeah, it was it's hard to see where the ball was, and then B, to get them down, up front there, it's a challenge. It was a load for sure.
It was, and then of course they split the uprights on an extra point, so now the score is 8-7 in the first quarter, and then about midway through the second quarter, Brady gets picked on a tip pass at the line of scrimmage. Mm-hmm. So they get the ball. However, they're driving down with under 2 minutes to go.
Yeah, and
Cam Severs came up with a big play.
Yeah, and that was one. Like I said, kind of a back and forth there for a minute. And, they drive down, and Cam right there on the 1-yard line gets an interception. He was just in great position, made a play on the ball. We got nervous there for a minute because the flag was thrown, but it was actually on the receiver, not on Cam.
That was my best call of the night because I saw that one.
Yes, yeah. And
so Matt even gave me my compliments. I said, that's the only thing you're getting from me tonight.
No, without a doubt. Yeah, that was, like I said, you talk about just a momentum killer and a big play, getting ready to go into half, because at that point, 8-7, and as a staff, we kind of talked about that, and I kind of echoed that to our assistant coaches. I said I could very much see this game, going in to halftime, neck and neck, and just make a couple adjustments and go from there.
Right, and essentially it did, but Wildcats take advantage before the half because Severs comes up with that interception there with under 2 minutes to go, and then Brady comes up with I think we ran one play, second play from line of scrimmage. They're on that second drive, or I guess not the second drive, but they're on that drive. Brady breaks for a big one of 61 yards, I think, and takes the ball across midfield. And now I'm sure that Coach Morrison's thinking, score.
Yes, yeah, and that's one, especially when you're coming out of your own end zone, basically. You want to be safe. You don't want to be too conservative, but we were in a position there where, hey, if you don't get a whole lot, as far as gains and yards, take this thing into halftime. But we had all 3 timeouts still, and so,
Right.
yeah, Brady breaking that big run, that was huge. It was able, he set us up to, again, utilize those timeouts, manage the clock.
And I think his run took the ball down to the 39.
Yeah.
And at that time, I'll tell you now that I was telling Matt on the broadcast last week, I said, this is a really weird situation because you and I talked last week about how we might be able to use Tomas Howe there in situations like that. And I told Matt at the time, I said, this will be really interesting,
Right.
because I can see us trotting Thomas out there and seeing if we could do it. But we didn't have to because we convert a big third down, and that was on a pass from Brady to Nick Bagley. And then I believe we marched the ball down until the 15, 7 seconds left to go. Brady fires the ball across the middle, finds Nick Bagley sliding into the end zone, perfectly placed pass. That's hard to say. And then a really nice grab by Nick sliding into the end zone. Ball was pretty well placed where nobody else could get to it.
Yes.
And Nick made the catch.
No, he did a good job. We knew coming out of that timeout, things we'd seen on film and what we anticipated, and the boys just did a great job executing. And like I said, we always call them touchdown throws in certain scenarios where you throw it, kind of a lower ball, so it's either we get it or nobody does. And to that, we weren't even sure 100%. We were pretty sure he had the catch, kind of rolled, and he still had it. So, yeah, when you're talking about being able to go into halftime up 16-7 opposed to 8-7,
right?
And with that momentum, that's big.
Yeah, and went to 16-7 after another 2-point conversion run by Brady. So 16-7 halftime lead, and as Wildcat fans may have started to become accustomed to, we see adjustments by coaching staff that prove pretty pivotal for that second half. So tell us what goes on in those locker rooms.
It's
not everything.
No, obviously. No, and that's something when we talk about growth of our program and, our kids just understanding truly what we're trying to do. When we go into halftime, we're talking to them, and they, they're able to come to us. Our offensive line, they're able to come to us and say, hey, it's this, it's that. Obviously we have film, going the whole time, but we can say, hey, here's what we're seeing. Is this right? Because it's, right in front of you. And, that's something that, like I said, they've done a great job of.
And we talked a lot about that over the first 5 weeks.
Yeah, and just each week it gets better, and that's where even if it were 8-7 there, you don't go in a panic. It's you kind of look forward to it, honestly, just to see, hey, are we all on the same page here? And
you're looking for kids to compete.
Yes, yeah, and that's the one thing we always remind them, and they did a good job with. Is like, guys, hey, these are games you want to be in. Yeah, it's nice to be up 20-something to nothing at halftime, and all is well there. But so these are the games that you remember forever.
Right, you bet. So a 16-7 lead at the half, and going back to the halftime, I think Matt and I talked. We said, when we were playing, you used to get Gatorade and you get a banana or an orange or whatever, and I don't know what they're feeding them at halftime, but when they came out for the second half, the team was jacked.
Yeah.
And they were excited and they were pumped. And you saw bodies flying and head slapping and stuff like that going on. And you could just see the transition from a team that wanted to win to a team that knew they were going to win.
Yeah.
So, and of course, then a close game still, 16-7, still 2 possessions, which made it big. But Adrian comes out and they punch a touchdown in on their opening drive of the second half, and that was on a 3-yard run. Bailey's second of the night. They went for 2 there, missed it, so it makes it down to a 1-possession game, but it's 16-13. But that was all they'd get.
Yeah. It was one. That series there. Kids came out. They were doing well. I think at one point it was 3rd and 18 or 4th and 18, and we got a horse collar there, gave them a first down, and then they just kind of chipped away, and running back, he,
It
found a
wasn't a
seam.
horse collar, by the way.
I wouldn't say it, but we couldn't go to the review booth. So, anyways, yeah, they answered it, and and our kids again, it was just refocus, and they obviously they did a good job because they were able to keep them out for the rest of the night.
They did, because then on the next drive, Warsaw gets the ball and Bagley breaks loose on a 37-yard touchdown run, which is something we're not used to seeing Nick do.
Yeah.
Nick doesn't necessarily have that breakaway speed, but he runs tough. He runs downhill. He squares his shoulders up, and he's still a big threat out of that backfield.
Yes.
So he runs for a 37-yard touchdown run, makes it 23-13 after a Howe extra point, and another one that maybe was good from 30.
Yeah.
Of course. So that's 23-13, 4:11 to go in the third. Later on in the third, Brady actually slides in for a 5-yard touchdown run after a big defensive play.
Yeah. It was again. I mean, just who's up this week? And like he sounded like a broken record, but I feel like Brady's gonna break one usually big once or twice a night, whether that be with his legs or his arm, and then our running back by committee.
Right.
And ironically, like I said, Cam gets his one touchdown at night,
Right.
at least, and then whether it's Gage or Nick or Tayton or whoever, they step up and show out, and then Grant contributes in there also, and it's
that's on this play. Was the play that set this touchdown up, was Grant Chapman's interception.
Yeah.
Of course, what was really encouraging about that one was, and again, I'm listening to Matt make the call, and he looks downfield. Grant looks downfield and had to see a wall of white jerseys in front of him blocking, and that was impressive. So Grant takes the ball all the way down to the 5. Brady punches in from there. Of course, Tomas actually kicks an extra point again. So now we're up 30-13, 22 seconds left to go in the third, and I was comfortable.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And then, of course, the Wildcats cap that. Scoring off there late in the fourth. There's 1:55 left to go. Again, Brady on a keeper or whatever the play is, I'm not even going to ask you, breaks loose for a 56-yard touchdown run. Tomas actually splits the uprights again, his third of the night, third in a row for a 37-13 final. So, all right, so covering that one there, we're going to break down a few of the stats, and I know you always like to blame us, but we're bigger number guys than you are.
Yep.
Team rushing again, though, 27 rushes, 322 yards, over almost 12 yards of rushing this one and 3 touchdowns. Team passing, Brady, 6 of 11 for 130 and 2 touchdowns. A team total of 452 total yards, which is right on track. After I was researching stats and stuff, I think that 427 is our lowest offensive output this year. We've been at 452, 450, 448.
Yeah.
All within those games were all within about 10 yards of each other. So really interesting there. Brady actually goes 15 rushes for 212, 2 touchdowns, and 6 of 11 for the 130 and 2 more. So Brady adding to his touchdown totals, I believe he's got 9 on the ground and 8 through the air through 5 games now.
Yeah.
Nick, I was looking at these numbers. 102 yards on the ground and a touchdown on 5 carries.
5 carries, yeah.
That's a pretty nice average.
Yeah.
We'll take that one. And he chipped in 3 catches for 35 and another touchdown, that sliding grab in the end zone before the half. Cam, again, doing what Cam does, 3 for 95 and 1 touchdown.
Yep.
And then Tomas, our surprise of the year, almost, 3 for 3 on his extra point. So Wildcats now scored 200 points total across the board, and even 200, so they're averaging 40 points a game. Again, almost 443 yards total. Have now rushed for over 1,600 yards, and that's almost 335 yards a game. But what's even more encouraging there is that almost 9 yards per carry.
Yeah.
So, and then of course 540 passing yards, modest, but it works.
Oh yeah.
So it works. On the defensive side of the ball, we're getting some big plays at big times, and this was a week, probably the better one of the first 5 that I saw. And as far as team tackling and guys coming through making big plays at big times, honestly, haven't talked a whole lot about Cam Taylor, but he had a great game from the defensive line this past week.
He did, and that was the thing. When we go against team, I mean, any week you want to win it up front, but we just talk again how big they were up front, and our pad level had to be low. We had to be firing out every single down, and to it with that option attack that they ran, you had to be disciplined in it. And Cam did a great job. Our guys up front did a good job across the board. And with that, though, it was just, hey, like we talked after that first series, we said, guys, they have pretty much shown you everything, that they're going to do, that they do, and that you've seen all week. Right. And now you're just seeing it at bigger size and a little bit faster. And so to that, though, they can't say enough great things about them.
Right. And we'll get to some of these guys individually here in a minute. But the freshmen, Jace DePriest and Gage Whitaker, both tied for the lead in tackles on the defensive side. So they both finished with 8. Cam Taylor had 6.5. Nick Bagley with 5.5, came up with a fumble recovery. Garrett McGann and Brady Slavens both tied with 5. And then Tayton Boyer had 4.5 tackles. Grant Chapman, Riley Taylor each had 4. And Grant also had that big interception. Cam had a big interception there too to set us up for that score there at the end of the first half. So Wildcats really, through 5 games, have given up a total of 45. So they've scored 200, only given up 45. So that's an average of 40 and 9. Yeah. So the defense only giving up 9 points a game, only 214 yards total, which this week actually made that number take a hit a little bit. But 5 sacks, 5 fumble recoveries, 6 interceptions. We moved to +9 on that turnover ratio this week. But getting back to the defensive side, we talk a lot about the offense. Everybody likes to talk numbers and who's scoring touchdowns. But I want to take a little time to talk about these guys in the Wildcat defense, led by Coach Miller. He comes over from Adrian last year. Tell folks what we're seeing or what they're seeing on the defensive side of the ball from the Wildcats and what Coach Miller has meant and brought to the system.
Yeah, well, and you mentioned he's Adrian native, so that was a trip home for him.
Sure. And I had somebody catch me on Facebook and call it the Randy Morrow Bowl.
There we go. There we go. That's funny. Yeah, I know he mentioned Thanksgiving dinners may be more enjoyable with the family now.
Or they might not let him eat.
No, that's true. That's true. But no, it was a neat experience for him and for all of us. But no, when you talk about these guys, our big thing that we notice is, and you always say 11 hats to the ball, but these guys, they fly around and they don't care who's getting the tackle. They truly understand, first guy, make the contact, secure the tackle, and whatever that may look like. And it's not always a highlight reel, but secure it and then swarm to it and pick each other up, and that they get to that, hey, you're going to miss a tackle from time to time, but as long as if I'm missing it and you're right behind me to clean it up, then we've accomplished what we need to do. And Coach Miller does a great job, Coach Crusoe, our whole staff just working with those guys and getting, I think we got 16 or 17 guys that, we're rotating from the line to the linebackers to the secondary. And, and as a group, these guys are understanding, each week's a little bit different. This week or the next week we may need to be a little bit bigger inside or a little bit quicker inside. So, this guy kind of fits the bill a little bit better than the other. And, they don't, at least to us, they don't complain and mope about it. They just, work with it. And if they're not getting those reps and practice with that first rack offense or defense, and then they're over help running our scout and just getting each other better.
Good. So we're going to break this down a little bit by level and talk about that defensive line. Cameron Taylor, your Garrett McGann, Devin Bowl, your Wyatt James, your Austin Scheibe. Let's talk about that defensive front first.
Yep. And Kendall Bagley.
Kendall Bagley.
Yeah. And, just right there's 6 guys that, Cameron and Garrett obviously coming in with the most experience. And, to that, those guys, they never ask for a break, but we like to try to keep them fresh. They're loaded, and they're so versatile because they can play our interior line or our exterior. They can play that D end, they can play that D tackle, and with each week they do a great job just accepting what that responsibility is, and like I said, doing what we need of them. And then Devin Bowl and Kendall Bagley, they rotate there. Kendall being a little bit quicker, and Devin being a little bit bigger. He's great for plugging those holes and, really just taking away those gaps. And so those two work great together. And then Wyatt James and Austin Scheibe, it's neat to see their growth because beginning of the year it was, hey, if you can get out there and give us one one play or 2 plays, that'd be great. Where now we can say, hey, go out there and, you know, give us a series and give these guys a break and feel 100% comfortable with it.
Right. And then now let's move to that second level and our linebackers and Nick Bagley, Gage Whitaker, Riley Taylor, Jace DePriest, and you'll have to fill in names if I missed anybody.
No, you're right there, because I know Tate plays outside backer, but he also roll back and play safety. And so, and for those guys, you know, again, you know, when we're talking experience, Nick and Gage having the most experience there, and then Tate at the outside, but Jace being able to come in and Riley being able, and that's the nice thing with Riley too, is Riley can play out linebacker and he can play D tackle. Jace can play outside, he can play middle, and you know,
it's a lot of versatility going on there. And again, we're talking about young guys here.
Yes,
you know, we're talking about a freshman and sophomore in DePriest and Taylor.
Yep, and especially on the defensive side, we say it on the offensive too, but your number one way on the field, special teams, but defensively, where guys, you know, the more versatile you can be, you know, we call them kind of hybrid guys, then you know, obviously it increases your chances to get on the field, and, and those guys have 100% bought into it, and they kind of, when we go into Monday meetings, you know, they may joke a little bit about, hey, what position am I playing this week?
What group do I go with?
Yeah, honestly.
So then moving to the secondary, we talk about Tate Boyer. He goes back and plays safety. Grant Chapman, Cam Severs, Nate Banfield, a sophomore that stepped up when James Kellner went down early. Then, of course, Brady Slavens and Ty Williams. Yeah,
and again, you know, Cameron Severs, he does such a great job at corner, and he showed that. You know, he's our guy that you just put Cam on whoever you need to put him on, and he just goes and does such a great job being in position and with his keys and reads. And then, like I said, in Grant, you know, last week he played corner for us. A lot of times he plays safety. You know, and he's got such a high football IQ. You know, he is a coach.
And he gives you a leader in that defensive backfield too. And that's what I've noticed from Grant. When I said earlier that we saw guys flying around and slapping hats and stuff like that, Grant's one of those. And Grant even came up with a pretty big hit over there on your sideline. That it was video worthy.
No, it was, and I'm so proud of, you know, for him, of him. You know, he's, like I said, he's a guy that when we're in practice, you know, he leads our drills. If I say, hey, you know, just yesterday, I was like, hey, Grant, make sure when we get into this session, we go over this. Don't let me forget, you know. And he's right there. He's, like I said, when I say he's a coach on the field, he truly is, and just does a great job. And then, like I said, Nate Banfield's been able to step in. You know, when Peepaw went down with his injury, you know, he's came on, done everything we asked of him. Brady, I know he'd like to play back there a little bit more, but anytime, you know, we need him, he's there.
But the luxury is that you have all these other guys that we've mentioned, and you don't have to have Brady there.
Without a doubt. And that's what we remind these guys is, hey, it's a long season. And, you know, obviously we saw that adversity right out of the gate after our jamboree. And so, and then Ty Williams out at corner also. I mean, just a guy that started out at outside linebacker for us, and then we said, hey, you know, you're pretty fast, pretty athletic.
Kinda.
Just don't let him behind you. And, you know, and again, I mean, he just does a great job. And then, as we mentioned, Taten's able to he played safety for us last year, plays outside backer now. And a week like last week where they give you different looks, you don't necessarily have time to run guys on and off. He gives us that option to just roll him back to safety.
Right. All right, so there's a cap on week 5. We're going to come back, and we're moving forward to week 6 after this.
J&D Pharmacy Home Medical Supply is a locally owned and operated pharmacy. Our pharmacists and pharmacy technicians will provide you with the personal service you deserve. We are a full-service home medical equipment company and accept Medicare, Medicaid, and most commercial insurance. Stop by our pharmacy drive-up window, where we have 2 convenient lanes located in the rear of the building. We look forward to serving you now and in the future with all of your health needs. J&D Pharmacy Home Medical Supply. People helping people.
All right, and we're back to the Coaches Show. I'm Adam Howe with Wildcat boss, Coach Ryan Boyer, and we're looking ahead to week number 6, where the Wildcats travel to El Dorado Springs to take on the 1-4 Bulldogs. Scheduled kickoff is 7 p.m. tonight in El Dorado Springs.
Yep, we're excited for the opportunity, and you know, this is a team that I know they're 1-4, but they could easily you know, be above 500. They've lost some close ones there, you know, that first week and then a couple weeks ago, and so we're looking forward to the opportunity.
Yeah, so a 36-16 loss to Forsyth in week 1. and then came back, got their only win of the year, 44-24 over Clever, and that was at Clever in week 2. A 53-12 loss to conference opponent Butler in week 3, and we'll get to see Butler next week ourselves. And then 21-20, they took a loss to Adrian in week 4, right before we played them. Actually led that game for a while before Adrian came back and won 21-20. And then took one on the chin last week to Summit Christian Academy. That's a team out of Springfield. That was a 41-0 loss. So that leaves them at 1-4. They are at home for one week, but they've been away for the last 3 games. So they're 1-1 away, 0-2 at home, 0-1 at a neutral site. That was that Forsyth game. But now playing their 3rd game at home. It's the Bulldogs' homecoming. You got to love that. But Coach Boyer, your initial thoughts and comments on El Dorado Springs?
Yeah, number one, like we told our kids, this is a conference opponent, and they've been on the road. They're coming home. It's their homecoming game. So to that, they're going to have a big crowd. They're going to be up for it. We understand that. And you also, when teams have been struggling a little bit, a lot of times you're looking for that spark to get things going. So to that, like we told our kids, you got to be ready for something unexpected, whether that be to start the game or just throughout. So staying disciplined. Each week we see a little bit different style of play, and how they run things, and some of the things they do we don't see every week. So again, for our kids, it's last week was obviously nice, and it's been a great year so far, but it's refocusing for this week and trying to go 1-0.
Right. So talking about that El Dorado and things that you don't see every week, that El Dorado defense versus the Wildcat offense, it looked to me from my research, which is not nearly as in-depth as yours, but from my research, it looks like 3 up front, or kind of a 5-man front, kind of a 3-3 stack type deal, loading the box, 1 high safety, man-to-man on the outside. How do the Wildcats attack that?
Yeah, that 3-3 stack, it's something you don't see all the time. So that's what we told our kids, to account for that third backer, wherever it may be on a certain play. It's a little bit different. And so, again, with the communication aspect of things, we got to make sure we're on the same page there. And, and then on the flip side, as we mentioned, is about every week somebody's showing us something a little bit different. And so to that, we'll make sure, we're prepared there. And then, offensively, it's some wing tee stuff that we do, but just a little bit different. They're pulling, they're trapping, they're running counters, they're doing a lot of things there. And so just really settle in, focus in on what they're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, so what it looks like to me is they try to establish that run early. They use a counter to keep you honest. Don't pass a whole lot, but it looks to me like if the Wildcats continue to play a disciplined defense, everybody you've talked in the past, do your job, fill your gap, things ought to come out okay.
We hope right? So. We hope so. I mean, it's been a good week of practice, and and the other part of it is we always say control what you can. I know there's rain in the forecast. Well, that's out of our control. Yeah, and
right. Nothing you're doing about that one.
Nope. And Coach Morrow always liked to mention it's raining just as much on their sideline as it is ours.
You bet. So, yeah, and I think I saw one, and I don't know who coached back then, but one of the worst games that I've been at, as far as field conditions, was at El Dorado a few years ago, and I think they still dub it the Mud Bowl.
Yeah. Yep.
And I think that might be Coach Ironman might know the one I'm talking about.
He mentioned that earlier in the week.
Yeah.
I think maybe multiple overtimes, and he said, I swear there's 20 turnovers combined. And
I think there was. I think we actually have somebody who set a new record for interceptions at that game because they were trying, couldn't run, so let's just try to throw the ball.
Yeah.
Well, you know how that goes when it's raining.
Yep.
So,
yep. No, it's we mentioned that.
But let's hope it's not a replay of that.
Right. But it's that time of year. I think last time we were down there it was kind of a mud game, if you will.
Right. So we're not going to call it looking ahead. We're going to look back first. But we break the season down into thirds. Yep. 9 games on the year. So 3-0 in the first third. You're now 2-0 in the second third of the season. Your team stands at 5-0, and you're starting to get noticed. You're even gaining points in this week's state rankings. So when you look at it and you see that player, your teams to watch or others receiving votes, Warsaw's popping up there now. Something that maybe some of these guys haven't been around. They haven't seen it, and I don't know if there are any of the 4 years that have seen that. How do you keep your team humble and focused when the lights go on, and they start shining on them.
No, and to that, it's something we talked about at the very beginning of the week and our focus for the week. There's a couple things, but it was, let our standards remain our standards. And, to that, our kids, we've talked to them before, is, hey, with success, you get more recognition and you get more accolades and things like that. But again, our 40 that we have there, we've known all along what our goals have been. We know what our standards have been, and we talk about that each week and about how that, each week we've been able to get a little closer and get a little closer to those standards, or those goals. We've always kept our standards high, but just staying together and again, to tell a kid to stay off social media or not read the paper or whatever it may be, we know that's an unrealistic expectation. But to him, it is something we say, hey, this is something to be proud of. This is something that you have earned. But
stay within yourself.
But stay within yourself and know that, hey, come week 10, everybody's 0-0.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with enjoying it. You've earned it.
Yeah.
Right? So there's nothing wrong with enjoying it. But like you said, everybody has known, this team has known their capabilities. It's just now that everybody else is getting to see it.
Exactly.
So it's the crowd, it's the moms and dads and the grandparents and the other kids walking the halls of school that get excited about it.
Yeah.
All along, these 40 guys have known what they could do.
Without a doubt.
So, all right. So looking ahead at districts, and we've got a couple opponents coming up. We've got a couple big district or games with district implications coming up this week, actually. But when we go back to, getting noticed and even gaining some points in the standings, Warsaw now sits at the top spot in the district standings. So they're 5-0 at a very slim margin.
Yep.
But they are at 47.5. They go to El Dorado tonight, 1-4. Butler slides down. Warsaw trades spots with them. Butler slides down. They're still undefeated at 5-0. Their point total only being 47.14. So they're even less than a half point behind us.
Yeah.
And then they have a big one this week.
Yes.
A big one when they host Buffalo, who is 4-1.
Mm-hmm. No, that'll be like I said. It's that time of year where we all dive into our conference opponents. Obviously, we've already played Sherwood, but we really like, and again, not looking past tonight, but the way that our last third of our season, the way it falls with Butler, Skyline, and Buffalo, because again, those are games that we feel like, great competition, but B, really get us ready for the playoffs.
Right. Of course, Lafayette, that's Higginsville, Lafayette County. They come in at number 3. They're 4-1 at 44.6. They will host Holden this week. Holden, obviously in the number 4 spot, they're 3-1, 40.86. They go to Lafayette County. Noster holding down the 5 spot. They're 2-3 at 27.23 points. They will host Lexington. Versailles, 1-4, 25.80. They host California. And then Lone Jack with Kingsville is actually 1-4, 16.32 points, and they will host Midway. So your thoughts on how this district shakes out?
It's pretty loaded, and but it's neat to see. You want, like I said, when you get into playoffs, you want to know that you've earned it, and sometimes it just happens to fall that way, and we don't know how this will all shake out, but you have an opportunity where possibly in a week or so you might have 3 teams in the top 10 in your own district.
Right.
And so
whoever comes out of this district, and I believe this is District 4.
I think, that's
Class 2 District 4. Whoever wins this district is undoubtedly going to earn it.
Without, it's not going to be a cakewalk for anybody, and it's exciting to see.
All right, so that kind of gives you a breakdown, a little preview of that Week 6 game. Warsaw Wildcats traveling to El Dorado Springs to take on the Bulldogs. 7 o'clock kickoff. That's tonight in El Dorado Springs. And Coach, your thoughts on anything else? Anything else we got going out there in the program? I know we've had some youth football, and I'm going to give some scores here. I'm not going to break down everything, but first grade. They're still looking for a win.
Yep.
But a lot of those guys, first time playing, they lost 28-12. Second grade, however, here's the difference between first and second. Second grade is 3-0.
Yep.
So they know they're kind of figuring things out. They actually beat Colcamp 26-12 this past Saturday. Third and fourth grade, they improved to 3-0, and they, with a dominating win, 39-0 over Colcamp. Fifth and sixth grade lost 26-8 against Skyline. And then seventh grade, they lost a 45-0 game to Buffalo, a tough Buffalo squad, we know. And then eighth grade and JV both won. So that eighth grade team, they also took on a good Buffalo squad, and that, from what I understand, was a good 20-8 game.
Yes, it was.
And then JV actually won on Monday night over Adrian 30-6.
Yep.
So another good week for Wildcat football in the program.
Without a doubt, and and it's great to see again. All the kids out, the competition levels, and the success they're having, and it's exciting for the future of the Wildcat program.
Right, and then we talk about these youth teams every week and kind of try to give them a shout out and make sure that if they're watching the show, they hear their team results.
Yeah.
But for those sitting at home, they get an opportunity this week to maybe come out and catch one of those games, because all the youth games, 3rd through 6th, will be played at Warsaw tomorrow, Saturday. So a full day of football at Randy Moore Field.
Yeah, it's one. I know we'll be out there. Our kids help with that. Our program helps with that. The games start at 9 o'clock.
And I believe that's the 3rd and 4th Warsaw game.
Yes, and then they run about they're scheduled for every hour and a half.
Right.
Having 7 games out there, and
I think the 5th and 6th grade play at 10:30. So I think they start
Back
at
to
9
back.
and back to back. So if you want to come out, it doesn't take your whole day.
No.
Come out, cheer on that 3rd and 4th grade team, stick around, cheer on that 5th and 6th grade team, and catch some of these young guys. They work hard, 2-3 nights a week. They're practicing and really putting their time in, and I'm sure that they'd like to see a good Wildcat crowd there too.
no, for sure. It's fun to see. We always enjoy it, and I know it means the world to them.
Right. All right, Coach. Well, good luck tonight when you travel to El Dorado Springs. Wildcats looking for win number 6. We do want to make mention that when you're traveling to El Dorado Springs this week, that Highway 83 bridge is still under construction. So it's one of the bridges that's delayed still. So you'll want to find an alternate route. Have you found one?
There's a detour there, but as long as you give yourself, if you're going that direction, about 10 extra minutes, you should be fine.
Good. Okay, so again, make sure you don't get to that bridge and don't know where to go, okay? Probably no service down there either to call anybody, so look ahead at that. But anyway, that's a wrap on this week's Coaches Show. Wildcats take on the El Dorado Springs Bulldogs tonight, looking for 6-0.
This has been a BCE TV production. Thank you for watching.